Ethan Cole never imagined his life would lead him into the center of galactic politics. He was a scientist, not a diplomat. His background was in xenobiology and planetary research, not treaties and political speeches. Yet here he was, walking across the shimmering crystal floor of the Grand Hall of Zerathia Prime, a chamber larger than any cathedral he had ever seen on Earth. High above, strange banners of light drifted in the air like living ribbons, representing the emblems of dozens of alien civilizations. The hall was filled with towering alien figures, each one from a species more exotic and intimidating than the next. And at the far end of the chamber sat the one being everyone feared, respected, and whispered about. The alien queen, Zyra of the Vathans. Ethan's steps echoed too loudly for his liking. His palms were damp, his throat dry, and his mind kept reminding him that he wasn't supposed to be here. The original Earth ambassador had fallen ill at the last moment, and because Ethan had already been stationed nearby for scientific work, someone in authority thought it would be efficient to push him into the role. After all, they argued, Ethan understood alien species better than most humans. But Ethan knew understanding biology was very different from standing in front of a queen whose empire had conquered half the known galaxy. When he finally reached his designated place at the center of the hall, he tried to breathe slowly. He adjusted the collar of his formal suit, one that felt too tight around his neck, and looked up. The alien queen was even more imposing than the stories described. She was tall, her silver crown seeming to grow out of her head like natural extensions, and her eyes glowed faintly with an inner light that made it impossible to tell whether she was studying or judging him. Her expression was unreadable, her posture perfect, and the hall seemed to fall into silence the moment she raised her hand. Human delegate, her voice rang, both smooth and commanding. Step forward. Ethan did as she asked, his heart thudding. He cleared his throat, reminding himself to keep it professional. But the pressure of her gaze was too much. She looked at him as if she could see through every layer of his being, weighing not only his words but his very soul. It was unlike anything he had felt before, and it sent his nerves spiraling. The discussion began with talk of alliances, trade agreements, and Earth's place among the stars. Other alien leaders in the hall added their comments, each voice echoing strangely through the chamber. Ethan tried to follow along, nodding when it seemed right and repeating the lines prepared by Earth's council. But the queen never took her eyes off him. Her attention was sharp, steady, and unyielding. Every time Ethan spoke, her gaze seemed to pin him in place like a specimen under a microscope. He knew he needed to break the tension. He had to do something before he completely lost his composure. His mouth moved before his mind could stop it. A nervous attempt at humor slipped past his lips. You'd make a cute wife, he said softly, almost under his breath, but in the silence of the hall, the words carried like a shout. The moment froze. Every alien noble in the chamber hissed or muttered in shock. Some raised their crested heads in outrage. Others tilted forward as if expecting the queen to unleash punishment. Ethan's stomach dropped. He wanted to take it back immediately, to explain it was just a nervous joke. But his voice failed him. He stood frozen, wide-eyed as his mistake hung in the air like a storm about to strike. The queen did not move at first. She simply stared at him, her glowing eyes unblinking. The silence stretched longer, and Ethan's mind raced with images of being banished, imprisoned, or worse. He knew humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, and insulting the most feared ruler in the galaxy could easily lead to Earth's downfall. He thought this was the end, not just for him, but maybe even for his world's chance at peace. Then the queen spoke. Her lips parted and her words came out calm, steady, and shockingly clear. I accept, she said. The hall erupted in chaos. Alien leaders rose from their seats shouting, whispering, or gasping in disbelief. Some demanded clarification, others accused Ethan of trickery, and a few seemed amused by the unexpected twist. But Ethan could only stare at her in disbelief, his ears ringing. He opened his mouth to protest. Wait, I didn't mean... But the queen silenced him with a small gesture. Your proposal has been made, she declared, her voice carrying authority that silenced the hall once again. And I, Zyra, sovereign of the Vathan Empire, accept this union. Ethan's legs nearly gave way. His joke, his nervous, thoughtless attempt at humor, had just been taken as a binding promise. He looked around the hall at the alien faces glaring, laughing, or staring in stunned silence. His mind struggled to process the weight of her words. Guards in silver armor approached him, though they did not seize him. Instead, they bowed slightly and gestured for him to follow. Confused and still reeling, Ethan allowed himself to be led toward the side of the chamber. As he glanced back, he saw Queen Zira watching him, her face still unreadable, though her eyes seemed to hold a strange intensity he had not noticed before. Whispers filled the air as he was escorted out of the hall. The human proposed to the queen. The queen accepted. A new alliance, or a disaster? Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. His joke had just shifted the balance of galactic politics, and he had no idea what was going to happen next. When the guards brought him to a massive door carved from crystal, one of them finally spoke. His tone formal but respectful. "You are to be prepared for audience in the Queen's private chamber," the guard said. Ethan's voice cracked. "Wait, what? Why?" The guard's glowing eyes flickered with something that might have been amusement. "Because, human, you are now her chosen." The door opened with a slow, heavy motion, revealing a corridor bathed in soft violet light. Ethan stood at the threshold, every instinct telling him to turn back, to explain, to shout that it had all been a mistake. But the guard's expectant stares told him there was no going back. His proposal had been accepted, and now he was walking into the unknown, into the private world of a queen who had just claimed him before the galaxy. Ethan swallowed hard, straightened his shoulders, and stepped forward. Inside, the future of Earth and maybe the galaxy was about to change, all because of a single nervous joke. Ethan Cole could not believe the path his life had taken in only a single day. One moment he was a nervous human scientist standing at the back of a galactic summit, trying to survive the weight of alien eyes. The next, he had apparently proposed to the most feared ruler in the galaxy, and she had accepted. Now he found himself walking through the vast corridors of the Vathan Royal Palace, escorted by silent guards clad in polished silver armor. The palace was nothing like anything on Earth. Its walls were alive with faint pulses of blue energy, as if the building itself breathed. Towering pillars of crystal stretched into infinity, reflecting alien starlight from skylights that opened directly into the blackness of space. Servants moved quietly through the halls, each bowing as Ethan passed, though their faces betrayed confusion and suspicion. He was an outsider, a human who had just shaken the foundations of their world with a single sentence. The guards stopped before another massive door carved with intricate alien symbols. One of them stepped forward and announced in a clear voice, "The human is ready." The door opened with a deep hum, revealing a grand chamber bathed in soft violet light. At the far end stood Queen Zira. She was without her crown now, though her presence was no less overwhelming. Instead of the heavy ceremonial armor she had worn at the summit, she now wore flowing robes of silver and black, which shimmered like liquid metal. Her eyes still glowed faintly, but there was something different about them, something less like judgment and more like curiosity. "Enter," she commanded. Ethan stepped inside, his throat dry. The door closed behind him with a quiet hiss, leaving him alone with the queen. For a long moment she simply studied him. He shifted uncomfortably under her gaze, unsure of whether to bow, salute, or run. Finally, he tried to break the silence. "Your Majesty," he began carefully. "There seems to have been a misunderstanding. What I said earlier, it was just a joke, a nervous slip." The queen tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "And yet you spoke it before the court, where all heard. According to our laws, words spoken in such a place, directed at the sovereign, cannot be dismissed as mere jokes. They are vows." Ethan blinked. "Vows, as in marriage vows?" Her gaze did not waver. "Yes, you proposed and I accepted. By the customs of the Vathan Empire, we are now bound. Your people and mine joined by this union." Ethan's mind spun. "But I'm not a leader. I'm not even a real diplomat. I'm just a scientist." "Perhaps," Zira replied. "But perhaps it was fate. Do you think I did not know what you were doing? You sought to break tension with humor. Yet your words were bold. Few beings in this galaxy would dare speak so directly to me. That courage is rare." Ethan rubbed his forehead. "Courage?" I was terrified. "Courage is not the absence of fear," the queen said quietly. "It is action despite it." For the first time, Ethan heard something unexpected in her voice. Not the cold edge of authority, but a softer note. Almost human. Still, he was overwhelmed. "This can't be real." Earth will never accept this. They'll panic. They'll think you're trying to take over our planet by marrying into it. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. And would that trouble you, human? If my empire joined with your world? Ethan swallowed. It's not about me. It's about choice. My people value freedom. They won't want to be forced into anything. Something flickered across her face, a shadow of emotion she seemed to fight to control. She stepped closer, and for the first time, Ethan realized how tall she was, easily a head taller than him. Yet her movements were graceful, almost hesitant. I have ruled for many cycles, she said softly. I have conquered, defended, commanded. Yet no one has ever spoken to me as you did. Not with fear, not with worship, but with something else. You treated me as though I were equal. That is why I accepted. Her words left Ethan silent. For all her reputation as a ruthless ruler, she sounded lonely, isolated, surrounded by respect but never by honesty. Before he could reply, the chamber doors opened again. A Vathan noble entered, tall, armored, his expression sharp with disapproval. He bowed stiffly before the Queen. My sovereign, he said, though his eyes flicked to Ethan with disdain. Forgive the intrusion. But the council is restless. They demand explanation. Some say this human deceived you. Ethan's stomach dropped. The Queen's voice hardened. He did not deceive me. His words were heard. I chose to accept, the noble frowned. Forgive me, sovereign, but many believe this will weaken us. To join with such a fragile species— Enough! Cyrus snapped, her eyes glowing brighter. You question my decision? The noble bowed his head quickly. Never, sovereign. I only caution. There are those who may not honor this union. There are whispers already. His voice dropped lower. Assassins may move against him. Ethan's pulse quickened. Wait, what? The noble straightened. This human may not live long enough to stand at your side. Zyra's eyes burned. Then let them try. The noble bowed again, retreating quickly, leaving the chamber heavy with silence. Ethan's mind raced. He had stumbled into a situation far larger than himself. Not only had his words bound him to an alien queen, but they had also painted a target on his back. He turned to Zyra. So now I'm in danger because of this. You are in danger because you are important, she replied firmly. And I will not allow harm to come to you. You are under my protection now. Ethan almost laughed, though it came out shaky. Some protection. I'm just a guy from Earth. I don't know how to survive assassination attempts in an alien palace. Zyra's expression softened again. Then you will learn, and I will teach you. For a long moment, Ethan looked into her glowing eyes and saw not only power but something else. Something like vulnerability hidden deep inside. She had accepted his words, not out of arrogance, but out of something far more personal. She wanted someone to see her as more than a queen. He sighed. All right. If I'm going to survive this, I'll need your help. But you should know something. On Earth, marriage isn't just politics. It's about choice. If this is real, then I want it to mean something. Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile. Then perhaps, human, you and I will redefine what this union means. Not just for us, but for both our peoples. Outside the palace walls, rumors spread like wildfire. Some saw the union as a dangerous risk, others as the dawn of a new age. But within the Queen's chamber, one thing became clear. Ethan's joke had turned into a bond that neither Earth nor the Vathan Empire could easily undo. And though danger waited in the shadows, a strange partnership had begun, one that might change the galaxy forever. The day of the ceremony arrived faster than Ethan could have ever imagined. 1 week ago, he was a scientist working quietly with samples and research data. Now he stood inside the crystal spire of Zerathia, about to be joined to the most powerful queen in the galaxy. The spire was a breathtaking structure that floated high above the city, its transparent walls offering views of swirling nebulae and alien moons. Billions of Vathans across the Empire were watching through broadcasts, waiting to see if their queen truly intended to bind herself to a human. Ethan adjusted the ceremonial robes they had given him. They shimmered faintly, stitched with patterns of silver light, but he still felt out of place wearing them. His reflection in the glass showed not a hero, not a diplomat, but just himself. A man caught in the middle of something far larger than he was. His stomach twisted with nerves, but deep inside he felt something else too, a quiet determination. He had come this far. Running away now wasn't an option. The heavy doors opened and Queen Zyra entered. She wore a crown of living crystal, glowing faintly with energy, and her flowing robes gave her the appearance of a goddess. Yet when her eyes met Ethan's, her expression softened for only him. For a brief moment he saw the loneliness she always hid from her people, and it made his heart steady. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying a note of curiosity. Ethan gave a nervous laugh. "Not really, but let's do this anyway." A faint smile touched her lips before she offered her hand. Together they walked down the aisle of light that stretched across the spire. The hall was filled with nobles, warriors, and council members, all watching intently. Some were outraged, others fascinated, and a few even hopeful. The ceremony began. An elder Vathan spoke of tradition, duty, and unity, his deep voice echoing like thunder. He declared that the queen had chosen a partner, and by their law their union would symbolize a merging of peoples. As the words carried through the chamber, Ethan felt the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. He wasn't just marrying someone, he was tying Earth to the Vathan Empire. But before the elder could finish, the air suddenly cracked with sound. A sharp hiss echoed from above, followed by a flash of silver light. Ethan barely had time to register movement when masked assassins dropped from the rafters, their weapons drawn and glowing with deadly energy. Chaos erupted. Nobles shouted, guards rushed forward, and the elder stumbled back. Ethan froze, his heart racing as one assassin raised a blade directly at him. "Now," one of them shouted. "Strike down the human before this farce becomes law." The blade came down, but before it could reach Ethan, a shimmering barrier flared around him. Queen Zyra had raised her hand, her eyes blazing with psychic energy. The blow bounced off her shield, sending sparks across the chamber. She stepped in front of Ethan, her voice sharp as steel. "You dare attack me in my own hall?" she roared. The assassins did not retreat. They circled, their eyes burning with fury. "We will not allow you to weaken our empire for a fragile species. This human will doom us all." Ethan's instinct screamed at him to stay behind the queen, but he knew he couldn't just hide. He looked around quickly. The assassins were fast, trained, and armed with weapons far beyond anything he understood. But Ethan wasn't a warrior. He was a scientist. His mind began working in overdrive. Nearby, he noticed the ceremonial torches burning with plasma energy. Each torch was connected to the palace's energy field, glowing with raw power. An idea sparked in his head. "Zyra," he shouted, ducking as another blade struck her shield. "Drop the barrier for just a second toward the torches." She glanced at him, confused. "Why?" "Trust me," Ethan yelled. For a moment she hesitated. Then with a swift motion she redirected her energy. The barrier vanished from the torch's side and Ethan lunged toward them. He grabbed the base of one torch, yanked it free with all his strength, and twisted the energy conduit as he had seen the engineers do. The torch sparked violently, sending a wave of plasma arcing across the floor. The blast knocked two assassins off their feet, their weapons flying from their hands. The others turned in fury toward him. "The human fights back?" Ethan gritted his teeth, holding the unstable torch like a staff. "Yeah, we humans don't just stand still," the assassins charged. Ethan swung the torch, sparks flying as it clashed against alien blades. He wasn't skilled, but he was unpredictable, and that gave him an edge. One assassin lunged, and Ethan sidestepped, shoving the sparking torch into the attacker's weapon. The overload sent the blade shorting out, dropping uselessly to the floor. Meanwhile, Queen Zyra unleashed her full power. With one hand, she raised shimmering shields to protect the nobles. With the other, she sent waves of psychic force crashing into the attackers, slamming them against the crystal walls. Her voice rang with authority, filled with rage and power. "None shall harm him." Together, human and queen fought side by side. Ethan's improvisation and quick thinking filled the gaps where her power could not reach. Finally, the last assassin fell, disarmed and bound by guards who rushed in after the struggle. The hall was left in silence, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing. Ethan leaned on the damaged torch, his chest heaving, while Queen Zyra stood tall and regal, her crown glowing brighter than ever. Slowly, the nobles rose to their feet. What they had just witnessed was not weakness. It was something else entirely. They had seen their queen fight with passion, and they had seen a human, fragile, yes, but also clever and fearless, stand beside her and survive. One noble finally spoke, his voice carrying awe. "The human fought like one of us." Another added, "No, he fought like something new." The elder returned to the center of the hall, his voice trembling but strong. The ceremony will continue, and so it did. Before billions of watching eyes, Ethan and Queen Zira completed the vows. This time there was no laughter, no nervousness, only a strange sense of unity. When their hands joined, the hall erupted not in protest but in cautious applause. Later, as they stood on the balcony of the crystal spire, overlooking the endless stars, Ethan finally allowed himself to breathe. His body ached, his nerves were frayed, but he was alive. More than that, he was part of something greater than himself. Queen Zira stood beside him, her voice quieter now. "You surprised me, human. Not once, but many times. Perhaps that is what makes your species dangerous. And remarkable." Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. "I didn't plan for any of this. I was just trying to make it through a meeting without passing out." "And yet you have changed everything," she said. For a moment they stood in silence, watching the galaxy stretch before them. Ethan realized then that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons, technology, or armies. It was the ability to adapt, to surprise, to connect in ways no one expected. A nervous joke had started it all. But now it was no joke. He was the human who had married an alien queen, fought beside her, and helped reshape the future of two civilizations. And as the stars burned brightly above them, Ethan finally smiled. "Well, guess we're in this together, Your Majesty." The Queen looked at him, her glowing eyes softening once more. "Yes, Ethan, together."